Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to the AM News on Global Television. Coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Ramsey Enoch Agbo. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. President Bola Tinubu has reiterated his administration's commitment to transforming Nigeria's health sector, emphasizing the urgent need to address the long-standing challenges that have hindered effective healthcare delivery. The president said this at the National Stakeholders Dialogue on Power in the Health Sector held in Abuja, represented by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume. The president assured Nigerians that his administration is working assiduously to promote sustainable energy solutions to power medical facilities nationwide. Tinubu also noted that the government is determined to pursue innovative solutions that will directly tackle the hydro-headed problems confronting the sector, with a special focus on improving the enabling environment for hospitals, clinics, and research institutions. Association of Resident Doctors in the Federal Capital Territory has commenced a 7-day warning strike, citing what they describe as deep-rooted failure in the health system. The doctors are demanding urgent and comprehensive reforms. Our correspondent, Zarau Nasir, looks at the situation and files this report.
Resident doctors are physicians who, after obtaining their medical degrees, undergo specialized hands-on training in hospitals to gain expertise in different fields of medicine. When our crew visited Maitama District Hospital in Abuja, it was observed that only clinical services were being rendered because of the strike. In an exclusive interview with Global Television, President of the National Association of Resident Doctors, Dr. Osundara Topi, explained that resident doctors across the country often resort to strikes due to unresolved challenges in the system.
The strike action embarked upon by several states' healthcare facilities because the concerns of residents in that state, those concerns were not addressed by the state government. So for the state government, especially with a few others that are, they are not, doing well for the residents in those facilities. The demands of those residents in that state, the government of that state has not been able to address those demands.
National Secretary, National Association of Resident Doctors, Odumbaku Kazim, noted that the current action by the FCT chapter stems from welfare concerns, unpaid salary arrears, and other unmet demands.
Yes, you are very correct. The Association of Resident Doctors, the FCTA chapter, went on strike yesterday, and this is because of some unmet demands from the FCTA, including payment of 2025 MRTF and some outstanding payments of arrears, including 25-35% salary arrears, and some other unmet needs, including excess workload for doctors working in the FCTA, as there has been no employment of enough doctors.
For a sector as critical as health, no doubt, incessant strike by medical doctors and other health professionals have continued to impact Nigeria's healthcare services in adverse ways. However, the latest notice of a warning strike by the National Association of Resident Doctors is yet one devastating blow to many. Zahra Nasir, reporting for Global TV News.
Nigeria's First Lady, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, has called for collective efforts to protect education and safeguard schools across the country. Describing it as essential to securing Nigeria's future, the First Lady, an educator and former teacher, made the call in her message commemorating the 2025 International Day to Protect Education from Attack. Nigeria has joined the rest of the world to mark the International Day to Protect Education from Attack. The Federal Ministry of Education hosted a National Stakeholders Dialogue in Abuja under the theme, Challenging Narratives, Reshaping the Nations. Global Television's Priscilla Obasi reports.
The dialogue brought together government officials, development partners, security agencies, and student representatives. The Permanent Secretary, Mr. Abel Enitan, represented by Director Human Resource Management Yusuf Sahid, affirmed that every child deserves to learn in peace and emphasized coordinated school safety action.
Mr. President has consistently emphasized that education is the foundation of prosperity and human capital development, and that every Nigerian child, irrespective of background, deserves a safe, secure, and enabling environment to learn and thrive. In advancing these commitments, the Federal Ministry of Education, under the able leadership of the Honorable Minister of Education, is determined to safeguard our schools.
Stakeholders at the event explained that every state now has a dedicated protection unit led by an Assistant Commissioner of Police, adding that a 24-hour call center has been launched to respond to emergencies. They reaffirmed that schools must remain centers of health, hope, and resilience, not zones of violence.
So today is a very special day because we are recognizing the International Day to protect education from attack. One of UNICEF's very important roles is to support the government of Nigeria to keep schools and to keep children safe. A safe school is where children look forward to going to school and going to learn.
And also at the police headquarters here in Abuja, we have the School Protection Squad call center. And early this year, we gave out a phone number to members of the public through which they can reach the police in case of any emergency 24/7. And the phone number is 080-7735-7777.
The high point of the event was different presentations from the students. With security still affecting classrooms in parts of the country, the event ended with a collective call to safeguard Nigeria's future through safe learning spaces. Priscilla Obasi, Global Television News, Abuja.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, that is INEC, is partnering with the National Bureau of Statistics (NBS) to improve data management and strengthen public facilities used during elections. Statisticians General of the Federation, Adeyemi Adeniran, disclosed this in Abuja during a courtesy call on the INEC chairman, Professor Mahmood Yakubu. Aniete Patrick reports.
Statistician General Adeyemi Adeniran said the collaboration will make electoral data more accessible and user-friendly.
To be able to report adequately on all SDG indicators and goals, we need all kinds of administrative data that is produced by public institutions and government agencies. So this is why we are here today, to meet with INEC management and the chairman to see how we can collaborate together to ensure that we have data produced by INEC in our database and make it available for public use.
INEC Chairman Professor Mahmood Yakubu in response says the partnership is coming at the right time. He notes that while INEC manages Nigeria's largest database of eligible voters, the NBS warehouses the widest range of national statistics. Yakubu explained that beyond elections, which occur once every 4 years, the Commission's network of polling units and collation centers could help improve public services if better maintained. He therefore called for regular reports on the state of facilities like schools that double as polling stations, many of which lack electricity, water, and access for people with disabilities.
As clearly stated by the Statistician General, today's meeting focuses on how the NBS can leverage on INEC's network of locations for electoral services for the benefit of citizens beyond elections, which only happen once in 4 years or as the need arises.
Both agencies pledged to use the partnership to strengthen democracy, enhance governance, and ensure reliable data drives development across Nigeria. Aniyetie Patrick, reporting for Global TV.
The Ijaw and Urhobo ethnic nationalities of Warri Federal Constituency are demanding the immediate release of the Independent National Electoral Commission's final report on the Supreme Court ordered fresh delineation of electoral wards and polling units in the area. This demand was made known to the Commission through its spokesperson, David Reje, during a staged protest at the INEC headquarters in Abuja. Aniyetie Patrick reports.
Groups say using the old arrangement for the ongoing continuous voter registration exercise undermines the judgment of the Apex Court and risks disenfranchising their people in future elections. They staged a protest at INEC headquarters in Abuja, insisting they would not relent until their political rights were fully restored.
INEC should immediately release and implement the report painstakingly embarked upon by stakeholders.
In response, INEC National Commissioner Professor Abdullahi Zuru assured the protesters that the Commission remains committed to implementing the Supreme Court directive. He pledged that their concerns will be addressed to ensure all eligible voters in Warri Federal Constituency are not denied participation in the electoral process.
You have raised issues. These issues will be looked at and then we'll get back to you. All I'm saying that we appreciate or will continue to appreciate that the participation at the local government level, people are registering. When we devolve, the issues would be resolved. And
the coming days will reveal whether INEC's promise translates into action that guarantees credible participation for all in Warri Federal Constituency. Aniyetie Patrick, reporting for Global TV.
Karo residents in the Federal Capital Territory have expressed joy following the approval of the resurrection and expansion of Karo Road by the federal government under the Federal Capital Territory Administration, FCTA. The project aligns with the federal government's vision to boost infrastructure across FCT's satellite towns and improve the living conditions of residents. Kabir Hassan was there for Global Television.
For us, commuters along Karo Road have suffered from gridlock, poor drainage and bad road condition, making daily movement a nightmare for residents and traders. However, with the federal government giving approval of its reconstruction and expansion, the story is set to change for the better. Beneficiaries of the project say they have suffered many challenges on account of the road condition, from going to work in the morning to arriving home at night. Even traders noted that they find it hard to access businesses.
There's many challenges because this road, where 4 o'clock knock, we always start hold up from Kubo till Karo.
We face many challenges about this Karo Road before, especially during closing hour. We normally have a terrible hold up in this because of this bad road.
The roads before was so terrible that is nothing to be right home about.
The challenges is that most of the times in the morning when you go out and during closing time, you discover that especially beside that NNPC, the road is normally bad.
From that Karo Bridge to Karo Roundabout before police station, you find out that there is a serious pothole, that the pothole do cause traffic in Karo.
Residents of Karo say they see development from the starting of the project and hope it will stand to the test time.
Thank God for this company will come. They start work and we see the difference, because even the roundabout before, we know they see our front. If you want to, many times accident is happening here. There are development, especially at that gully beside the military barracks after the NNPC.
at least those guys are working. They are doing a good work.
The development, you know, because at least with the 2 lane now, because before that we have there's a lot of potholes here.
I'm seeing some changes, but it's not really fully.
They also thanked the government for bringing the project to Karo, stating that the infrastructure renewal drive is expected to ease traffic congestion, reduce travel time, and boost economic activities in the area.
Thank you for the minister, and we appreciate for the company.
But we thank God that FCT minister have come to our aid and to repair this road now. It's a very big project, and we thank the FCT minister.
We thank God that Wike approved the roads, and we are happy about it.
To an extent, he has done well, because for now, at least with the road construction in Abuja, at least Abuja have taken a new lift, unlike the other ministers that they did promise and failed.
I'm very, very happy about the project because it's going to bring a good development here.
For Karo residents, the reconstruction of the road is more than just an infrastructure upgrade. It represents the renewed hope for a safer, faster, and more convenient transportation in the FCT. Kabir Hassan reporting for Global TV News.
You're watching the live broadcast of the AM News on Global Television. The AM News returns after this break. Stay with us. Welcome back from that break. Now let's get to the weather of business, where the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, says Nigeria is positioning itself to become a global leader in the shea industry following President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's recent decision to temporarily suspend the export of raw shea. The announcement was made at the 20th Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria's Northern Zonal Accountants Conference in Minna, where the minister was represented by Director General of the Voice of Nigeria, Malam Jibrin Baba Ndase. Describing the move as both bold and strategic, the minister said the suspension will help transform Nigeria's role in global shea supply chain. Nigeria's battle against desert encroachment is getting fresh momentum as the National Agency for the Great Green Wall says it's scaling up effort to plant 20 billion trees by 2030. Director General of the agency is Saleh Abubakar, who stated this in an exclusive interview with Global Television in Abuja, insisted that the target will not only secure the environment, but also strengthen the renewed hope agenda of President Bola Tinubu. Global TV correspondent Mukhtar Kasim reports.
The Director General of the agency, Saleh Abubakar, enumerated the mission of the agency, which among others is to combat desertification, restore degraded lands, and make Nigeria's dry lands green again. He said in the agency's efforts to achieve these, more nurseries, boreholes, and stronger community participation are now being rolled out to match the scale of its ambition.
My vision is to combat desert encroachment, transform the Nigerian drylands into green environment. I will be done when we plant 20 billion trees between now and 2030. Climate crisis also includes food insecurity. So what we are doing is to secure the environment so that food production can take place.
Saleh also stated that the agency, under its flagship initiative, has distributed 5 million date palm seedlings, a crop with strong economic value that can generate jobs for women, youth, and households across Nigeria.
The agency has chosen as well to distribute 5 million date palm seedlings to interested people in our communities. And this has been accepted as a palliative that can really see us through because we are going to create livelihood around those dead palm trees we are planting, and then there is a long value chain attached to it as well. These dead palms, if we get them planted, they will mature in 4 years, and each tree will give out about 100 kg in 6 months. So each tree will produce 200 kg every month, and this is enough.
According to him, all the efforts are to align with President Bola Tinubu's Renewed Hope agenda, a vision to turn climate action into jobs, livelihoods, and stability for millions.
All these activities we are doing, intention to plant 20 billion trees, intention to grow 50 million dead palm seedlings in this country. These are part of the Mr. President's Renewed Hope agenda to get people engaged in economic activities. And these economic activities will further enhance more growth in the economy of this country. We would like to create employment for our teeming youth, the housewives who are staying at home, who do not go out. They can all key into this dead palm production.
There is no doubt that the battle against desert encroachment will be successful as the Great Green Wall pushes ahead with its ambitious tree planting program and other strategies to combat the menace. Mukhtar Kasim, reporting for Global Television News.
And now to the foreign scene. The International Criminal Court has heard disturbing stories of atrocities allegedly committed by Joseph Kony Slott's resistance army in Uganda. The fugitive warlord faces 29 counts of war crimes and crimes against humanity, including murder, rape, torture, enslavement, and sexual slavery, allegedly committed between July 2002 and December 2005 in northern Uganda. Correspondent Uyi Agbomofuegbe completes the report.
Villages torched, young girls forced into sexual slavery, babies beaten and thrown into fires. Those were some of the harrowing stories heard by the International Tribunal in The Hague. Opening the hearing, Sarah Pellets, a lawyer representing victims, laid out the horrors Ugandan civilians suffered.
This case is the first at the International Criminal Court where the confirmation proceedings and hearings are held in absentia.
Opening the case for the prosecution, Mami Mandiaye Nyang said the repercussions of the violence were still felt today in Uganda.
The prosecution brings 39 charges of crimes against humanity and war crimes committed by Mr. Kony between 1 July 2002 and 31st December 2005 in northern Uganda.
After the hearing, International Criminal Court judges will decide whether the charges merit a trial, a process that occurs within 60 days. Kony, a former Catholic altar boy, headed the feared Lord's Resistance Army, LRA, whose insurgency against the Ugandan government saw more than 100,000 people killed and 60,000 children abducted, according to the United Nations. Uyi Agbomofuegbe, reporting for Global TV News.
In sports, Nigeria Super Eagles and South Africa's Bafana Bafana played out an eventful first half at the Free State Stadium in Bloemfontein, with both teams finding the net as the sides went into the break, tied 1-1. The match started with South Africa pressing early, looking to capitalize on home advantage. Nigeria had the first corner in the 10th minute after Ademola Lookman delivered a cross from the right, but South Africa's goalkeeper Foster cleared the ball with a header. South Africa threatened on the counter following the corner, with Nkota sprinting forward after a long ball from midfield, only to be denied by a sweet save from Nigerian keeper Nwabali. And that's it on the AM News. But before we go, a quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV, Channel 365, and Star Times, Channel 276. And don't forget to follow us on all our social media platforms, now showing on your screen at Global TVG. I am Ramsey Enoch Agbo. Thanks for watching.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Thank you everyone for joining us here today again on Global Morning. This is Global Television. I'm Uyagmo Fugbis, and a big welcome to you. My colleague is, as always, on the program as well.
Thank you. Good morning, Uyi.
Very good morning to you, Ramsey.
It's good to be with you on Global Morning once again. Many thanks to everyone for joining us on Global Morning today. It's about that time where we take you through some very interesting programs to get your day started. Thanks for joining us.
Of course, interesting programs to get your day started, and Global Morning is the flagship in that regard. As always, we're going to have conversations with you as to, well, some of the biggest stories in our country today. Yesterday, we spent some time, Priscilla and I, talking about issues around the proposed warning strike by the National Association of Resident Doctors. The president of the association, Dr. Tokbe Oshundara, was here, spent time highlighting those concerns beyond the welfare of healthcare professionals or doctors in particular. He also talked about the systemic challenges that Nigeria needs to fix. He didn't fail to mention that we need to, if you like, muster the political will to be able to address those issues, especially from the standpoint of the political class. Because he said one of the challenges we're grappling with is the paucity, or if you like, insufficiency of funding for the sector, mentioning how that this factor is the core reason you see that brain drain or Jagba syndrome is happening in this sector. But what we understand is that the 7-day notice, I should say the 10-day notice given to the federal government elapses today. So I asked him, I said, what happens when that notice cycles out today? He said, well, if nothing is done from the government's end, the 7-day warning strike will kick in. And then I further asked the question, what would your association do if the 7-day warning strike also goes full cycle and government still does not budge, as they say? And then he said it will become a full throttle strike. I'm not sure that's what Nigerians want to see.
Well, anything that has to do with the sector, the health sector, is not something to joke with, because we're talking about lives here. But now, taking care of in some climes, if any other sector must go on strike, not health sector, because of how important and how delicate that sector is, because this has to do with the people, has to do with life. If doctors go on strike for 1 hour, you can imagine the number of people that will lose their lives. As we speak, some are on life support that needs to be monitored by doctors every minute. Some persons, as we speak right now, at the ICU, the emergency unit, intensive care unit right now of different hospitals. These are people that need to be monitored. In fact, some of them, the doctor will have to stand there continuously monitoring the situation. If doctors are on strike and nobody's there, people in that kind of situation, what do you think will happen? God forbid, some of them may lose their lives. What about unforeseen circumstances? If you get to the emergency unit of hospitals, Jesus, you will thank God. You have every reason to thank God.
To be grateful.
To be grateful.
Right.
Because as a matter of fact, some of these things happen unplanned. And that's why they call it emergency. You don't even plan for it. You don't even know it's going to happen. You don't even, those situations don't even know whether there is a strike action or not. They are not even aware. So these things happen, and at the end of the day, the average Nigerian, I keep talking, anytime I speak, I talk about the average Nigerians because they are the receiving end. So I think just like we're hearing this morning, that the federal government or Dangote have succumbed to what the Tankers Association of paying what they wanted, that the strike has been suspended and all of that. I think same thing should be done. This health sector is even more important because you even need to be alive before you make use of these products called fuel, gas, whatever it is, even the money. You need to be alive before you can even enjoy this money. So health sector, doctors are not even supposed to go on strike. And this is part of the reason why this brain drain will not stop anytime soon. Because like the president was saying some times ago, that people who traveled out, especially doctors, should return back home. But with this kind of situation, they are hearing these things. Their colleagues are feeling the impact, the heat of all these things. Is that encouraging enough to bring them back home? So I think we should, like the doctor said, I think we've come to that point where we separate politics, all right, from human lives. I think that's where I'll peg it for now.
All right, so it's a good place to peg it. The problems in the health sector apparently have several legs. One of them is also power. I mean, Ramsey, you and I, we follow the story here about that. A premier health facility in this country, the University College Hospital, UCH Ibadan, at the time had suffered total blackout, right? And he was not just, beyond the fact that we knew lives were at stake, the national embarrassment of even having that conversation was palpable. All right, and then we saw that happen with a few other federal medical centers, teaching hospitals across this country, and government said at this point in time, it is only commonsensical that we should do something drastic, or if you like, a bit radical about addressing power problems in these very important health facilities. Yesterday, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Senator George Akume, represented President Bola Tinubu at an event where the crux of the conversation was around providing uninterrupted power, operative term, uninterrupted power for the health sector. The government says, the president says that, look, there is no better time to address this issue, enough of all of these, because we can't have operation or rooms that are without power. Look at what Dr. Shundare was saying here yesterday, quite disturbing conversation to have. Talking about how the doctors in 2025 in Nigeria are still expected in some instances to go into the OR, that's the operation room, using torchlights from their phone. Some years ago, I was at a teaching hospital where I needed to get treatment, dental treatment. At a point, they said, okay, well, you have to do S&P, scaling and polishing and all that. The consultant, this is my experience, the consultant that was in charge of that procedure sat down, procedure starts, and then he has these young medical students around him, of course, doing their housework and all of that. From start to finish, this consultant is complaining as if the world was going to come to an end. What were the issues? He picks up this tool, it's not functioning. He tries to get water, it's not running. He tries to get this, he's asking for this, they say it's not available. Meanwhile, I'm sitting right there, or was I sitting online? I can't remember exactly. But I'm right there in front of him, and all of these complaints are just worsening a situation that was already bad. So you can imagine how that further traumatizes even patients.
That's exactly what I'm
this is not just, this was a chief, as they are called, within the medical space, all right? This was a senior consultant, very high up, complaining the entire time. It was one of the most, I dare say, unarguably the most uninspiring moments I've ever had at a hospital. Let's be clear, this was a teaching hospital at the turn of a new century. So, if we still do not get the message, as that gentleman says in Nollywood, forget about it. All right, this is where we're going to take a break real quick, everyone. When we return, Ramsey and I, we will be here to continue to have these conversations with you. And of course, we'll put all of these issues in front of you. Please do stay with us. Now, beyond the health sector in Nigeria, one of the several lessons we have learned over time, even though at some point it looks like we are playing the ostrich over them, is the issue of power. We have come to realize that even for SMEs, I mean small and medium enterprises, there needs to be power. It just goes to show that until we address the problem of power in this country, there's just so much we can achieve. Yes, to say we are a developing economy, there are experts who have argued that Nigeria is not a developing economy. It is an underdeveloped economy. We can leave that for, I mean, the pundits themselves within the space of economics to have all the symposia they want to and just debate and have, you know, all of those sessions and dialogue. But what it does mean is that we can't say we are competing with a country like Singapore, like Malaysia, like even Vietnam, or say Brazil, and then you bring it back home to Africa. South Africa, for example, I mean, look at what South Africa did with power in 2010 in the build-up to the World Cup, which was hosted for the first time on the soil of Africa by South Africa. We're told they had to ramp up their power generation capacity by about 40,000 megawatts, in addition to what they already had at that time. Today, Nigeria is still capping at 5,500 megawatts, and we're excited about it. When in the real sense, we should be thinking of how to put, I mean, if you like, money where our mouth is, as far as the power issue is concerned in Nigeria. I mean, at the point in this country, a few years ago, where the leading economy on the continent here in Africa, but today that's not the case. You have countries like South Africa, Egypt, I mean, going ahead of us. Some of us are not even concerned, and I don't want to say we're praying, but we're concerned in such a way that we don't wake up one morning, Nigeria as an economy is ranked below Rwanda, and maybe at that point we'll begin to understand that we are probably between the rock and the hard place.
Well, I think if nothing is done, we are already closer to that time. If nothing is being done, looking at the current situation. And why did I say so? Because there seems to be, I don't know, more talk than action.
That's right.
You know, because we keep hearing this will be done. You just talked about the events that happened where the Senator George Akume had to represent the president, and talking about uninterrupted power supply in Nigeria. When would that be? We've been hearing about this. Thank God we've not heard of grid collapse recently, like it was some years back, even last year, back to back. Now it is band A, band, you know, a lot happening in the power sector. You know, before now, there've been some school of thought that some persons are actually fighting the power sector. I think the Minister of Power, also at the time, I can't really place it, said some persons are actually fighting the power sector, all right, because they need to continue with the business of selling generating plants.
Right.
So I don't know. So many things need to be done. For some countries, even countries that are smaller than Nigeria, these things are not issues anymore. We've heard how Nigeria supply power to some neighboring countries, and they have light uninterrupted. So why can't we have it?
Right.
These are the questions we should be asking. Okay, before now, they said, no, not NEPA anymore. Let's get privatized. And we have Power Holding Company of Nigeria, where you have a whole lot of other branches under it. But now, as it is it better than when it was in the government hand, being subsidized and all of that? Who is even supervising the process right now? People, Nigerians, people who are the actors in this sector are doing business. So what they are doing is business. You go to some places, they will tell you 3 days on, 1 day off. Even the 3 days on, you don't even get to see the light.
It is not uninterrupted.
It's not uninterrupted. So when you say 3 days on and 1 day off, but if it is off, it is off. But the 3 days is epileptic. So what are we saying? Who is deceiving who here?
Right.
And these people, I don't know. It could be a strategy when it's getting to the end of the month, when bills are supposed to be paid.
Becomes constant.
It becomes constant to an extent. Then everyone relax, they come collect their bill, and they get back to the status quo. So all of these, I don't know why we are like this. In Nigeria, I think so much, we need to do so much. Businesses, oh my God, we're complaining of the economy.
Yeah.
How can an economy flourish in this, under this kind of circumstance? See, boosting the economy of a nation is not just dependent on the government alone.
That's right.
We have business owners, we have businesses that can skyrocket the economy of this nation. We have investors that can come in, invest in this country, and you see our economy picking up. But do they have the enabling environment? How many came and couldn't sustain their businesses and left? But who is worried? Who is concerned about this? Everyone is just bothered about their daily bread.
I'm sorry, I had to bump in here. Who is going to bed every night to say, I'm waking up tomorrow morning with a new idea,
With a new idea.
and an action plan?
We are yet to get people like that, or probably if they even do exist, they go do these things outside Nigeria. We have Nigerians
Because the
who are-
system here wouldn't allow them.
They wouldn't allow them. We have Nigerians who are serious investors abroad,
Right.
and they are doing well. They are flourishing. We have multi-million-dollar millionaires
Right.
in this country. But they can't invest here because of the environment. But every day we keep disturbing ourselves about the economy. We keep saying so many things. There are things we need to do. If we don't, you can't be doing the same thing and be expecting a different result.
Right.
You need to do something different. Sometimes you take the risk. Sometimes you go back to the drawing table, you put people to supervise this process. But by the time you put someone there and no one cares, whatever happens there, and Nigerians begin to think, is this some form of settlement so that this person can just grab his own national cake, like they call it, and walk away? Is that what it means? Or it is in the real sense of it to provide results? When nobody is supervising anyone, when you give somebody responsibility and there is no accountability, that is an express way to failure.
Well, let's not leave you depressed this morning, because this issue is quite heavy on the emotions. What can we do? We still need to have that conversation, just the same. We're taking a quick break, everyone. When we return, we'll bring you headlines from across our national dailies. Please don't go away.
Welcome back from that break. Now it's time for us to take you through the national dailies and see what the papers are saying this beautiful Wednesday morning. Beginning from the nation's newspaper this morning, we have some very striking headlines. And of course, this one says FRS EFCC partners to enforce tax compliance. NIWA digs deep to curb boat accident. One rider to that story, no life jacket, no boarding. I think that will be important. IBAS, I saved 5 billion naira from Rivers staff verification. No plan to implement a 5% petroleum tax yet, says Edum. And now below the nameplate, this one says, you can't resume until your appeal is decided in court. Senate tells Senator Natasha. All right, DSS, the big story now. DSS broker truce ends Nopeng's strike threat. That's the big story. I think that's one of the great news we heard this morning. Some writers to that story, refinery workers are free to join unions. Panic buying of petrol in Akure, Abakaliki, of course, what do you expect? And now this one says, encomiums for doing Abiola at night of tribute. And of course, uproar over Israeli strike in Qatar. Protesters set fire to Parliament building. And finally, from the Nation's newspaper this morning, President directs urgent action on power crisis in hospitals. We just talked about that. And that's going to be the size of the headlines from the Nation's newspaper this morning.
All right, thank you, Ramsey. Let's turn to other papers for you real quick. This time we move over to the Daily Trust newspaper. Just immediately beneath the nameplate, top left corner, I should say, we won't implement fuel tax now, or yearly. Well, that clarification was very necessary. Ways to recover funds sent to wrong accounts. I'm sure you'll be very interested in that. Okay, those details are on page 33. Ways to recover funds sent to wrong account. What's more, why suicide is becoming common. Several factors driving this very nasty phenomenon. The Star headline says, how flood swept away 2 sisters, others in Zaria. The kind of story that sends chills down someone's spine. All right, that's again a story that continues on pages 3 and 4. What more do we have? Female accountant found dead inside car in FCT. Those details are on page 20. Female accountant found dead inside car in FCT. Condemnation as Israel military hits Hamas leaders in Doha. Condemnations as Israel military hits Hamas leaders in Doha. This has been a conversation at the last 24 hours. All right. Nigeria's 2026 World Cup hopes uncertain after South Africa draw. Ramsey didn't have time to follow that match yesterday, but there are people who are now saying, can we not just have a situation where our Super Eagles do not need to wait until other factors decide their fate? Can't they just win outright and let's move on as quickly as possible, instead of saying, well, if this team from Group A and this team from Group D draw, Super Eagles will qualify. If the other team loses, Super Eagles will not qualify. I mean, you are a sportsman, for example. What are you hearing?
Well, I knew South Africa is not a country to push aside when it comes to this kind of decider. You saw the pressure yesterday from the beginning, from the start of the game. The pressure started, and of course they scored, even though it was an own goal somehow from Trusekong. Right. But then the equalizer came, and one thing with the Super Eagles is by the time they equalize, there is this calm. Instead of pushing back to back, if I'd won that game yesterday, which was possible, at least we'll have some hope. But as it is right now, Nobody knows what's going to happen. You know how it feels. If Nigeria, former, should I say former giants of Africa, or whether they are still giants of Africa, I don't know. If we don't go to the World Cup, there's a way it looks like, but as it is right now, let's just keep our fingers crossed. But it is a slim hope.
Slim hope. Well, again, I think I would rather stick with the first part, keeping my fingers crossed. I don't like slim hopes. Well, the last headline we have here on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper says, DSS resolves Nupeng Dangote Group rift, strike suspended. At least we can heave a sigh of relief and then come to the dialogue table now instead of the apprehension that greeted this announcement last couple of days. All right, those are your headlines from the Daily Trust this morning. Let's move things over now to the Guardian newspaper, where Ramsey will bring us those headlines.
Thank you very much for those headlines. Let's quickly get to the Guardian newspaper this morning. And on the Guardian newspaper this morning, this one says PDP LP orders flay Senate's move to stop Natasha's resumption. All right. Delta slashes dialysis cost, expands health reforms. That is Delta. Nupeng suspends strike as Dangote agrees to unionize workers. And of course, you have the union head and Dangote right there. And this one says Nepal on edge as PM. Key ministers resign over alleged graft. Social media ban. Flight delays, destruction. NCAA summons domestic airlines to Abuja. And you see the picture of the Minister of Aviation, Festus Keyamo, right there beside that story. Reps fume, summon minister over Abuja Kaduna rail derailment. Yeah, we solved that. While the chairman of the committee, in the person of Blessing Onu, the daughter to the one-time Senate President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, David Mark, was seriously on top of her game as it has to do with that derailment, which is unusual. I think it should be investigated. How did that happen? Is that the train Nigerians actually were told we're going to get? Because a lot of promises were made by the people in that sector, and of course the company providing the trains. Now, no immediate plan to implement a 5% fuel tax, says Edun, amid pushback from OPS CSOs. And this one says federal government overhauls a social register to support over 70 million citizens. Now to the big story, which is going to be the last story I will take from The Guardian. It says federal government under pressure as DMO blames FX. Global shocks for rising debt. Details you can read on page 6 of The Nation, or The Guardian newspaper, I beg your pardon. That's the size of the headlines this morning from The Guardian.
All right, let's go to the Daily Times newspaper now for you. Above the nameplate, one first of all with a picture of President Bola Tinubu, says multiple taxation killing hotel business in Nigeria. That's credited to Association of Hoteliers. Ignore National Assembly, get ready to resume plenary. PDP charges Senator Akpoti Udwana. We hope we do not have a showdown again or some sort of tussle like we had the other time. All right. What more do we have here? There's a star headline, as always. Economy reforms wounds temporary, recovery permanent. That's according to Vice President Shettima. NCAA summons airlines over passengers' recurrent complaints. UK government announces £19 million funding for climate resilience, health development in Nigeria. You can read up those details on page 4. CBN mulls collaboration with Finance, Trade Ministries, Budget's Office. Rep summon Transport Minister over train derailment. Somebody has to be held accountable and continue to have a system that's free for all. People can do whatever they like and not take responsibility for the choices, actions, and decisions that they make. All right, read up those details when you pick up a copy of the Daily Times today, as we turn over now to the Nation newspaper. Ramsey.
All right. I think we'll do the Punch instead. Now from the Punch newspaper. The Punch newspaper says, NUPENG suspends strike as Dangote accepts unions' demand. That's to tell you of how strong these unions are in Nigeria. 31 states domestic debt hits 2.57 trillion naira. All right, more headlines as they come in this morning. 2027 presidency. Jonathan splits South PDP. The issue of Jonathan is gaining more weight. You know, the last time we checked, they said there is a plan. And there are organizations campaigning, even having meetings abroad for Jonathan. But then, what's Jonathan's stake in PDP? We know he's a stakeholder as a former president who actually came under the umbrella of the People's Democratic Party. But then one of the major things that these people are saying is PDP should put their house in order. If that's when you will even know whether or not former President Jonathan is going to contest. That's right. And for the wife, she said, for Aso Rock, I'm not going. But maybe the husband's decision might override her own decision at the long run.
but honestly, you do know what they say about a house divided against itself.
It can never stand. And who can underestimate the power of a woman?
Right.
All right, more headlines from the Punch newspaper. No immediate plan to implement fuel surcharge. That is coming from the federal government, and you see the picture of Wale Edum right there. Then moving away from there, let's get to the big story now. Doctors to the side on nationwide strike today. Some riders to that story. NATS NEC meets to review government's response to demand. NAMED decides $1 billion yearly spending on medical tourism. Tinubu restate commitment to health sector transform. Vows to end hospital spa crisis with hybrid solutions. On page 18, this one says PDP SANS protest as Senate blocks Natasha's return. This might not be as easy as some people are thinking about it. I think, I don't know, but then, well, this should be a major discussion, but it later came out from the clerk of the Senate saying, well, the case is in court, and all of that, so you can't return, and so many things. I think experts, the SANS are already on top of their game. PDP, somebody may say, well, PDP is an opposition, so they may be coming from the opposition's aspect, as it might be looked at by some Nigerians. But what about the SAN, the senior advocates of Nigeria? Let's see how all of this is going to end. But then, who is even bothered about the people of Kogi Central?
Those whom she represents.
She represents. Who is even talking about them? How are they faring? You know, they don't have a representative. Are they, I don't know. I think sometimes we need to even think beyond ourselves and consider Nigerians, you know, at least for a minute. Because her absence, whether you like it or not, is going to have a toll on her constituency. That's right. All right. Well, forget about the fact that on her own part, with the little she has, she's still going out to do some humanitarian services and all of that. It can't be as effective as it would be if she's right there in the house. So I don't know. But then let's see what will come out of all of this drama at the end of the day. 5 soldiers, terrorists, feared killed in Zamfara clash. Then right now, this one says Osun kidnappers reject kingmakers, I beg your pardon, reject move to dethrone jailed monarch. Vehicle theft, 3 Nigerians jailed 96 years in Ghana. Wow. Interesting. That's more like a life imprisonment.
96 years.
96 years. Well, that's going to be the size of the headlines from the Punch newspaper this morning.
All right, so let's now bring you the Daily Monitor. Well, the first one we have here, right above the name mast, has a photo of Vice President Kashim Shettima. It says Tinubu's bold reforms, proof of political will in economic policy. All right, again, that's the Vice President there talking. 4 headlines right below the name plates. Here a picture of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. Says, disregard National Assembly directive, prepare to resume. PDP tells Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. Northern elders back National Security Advisor, urge governors to embrace dialogue with bandits. Why Nigeria suspended raw share exports. Again, that's clarification being provided by the federal government on page 5 of the Daily Monitor newspaper. Troops nab 11 terrorist logistics suppliers, rescue 9 kidnapped victims. Some success there for not just men and women in uniform, but for Nigeria. And then the big headline here with 2 riders says, relief as Nupeng suspends strike, signs memorandum of understanding with Dangote refinery. The first rider tells us oil refining and petrochemicals company agrees to unionization of employees. Ipman calls of industrial action after agreement with Dangote Nupeng. So everybody's shooting their swords now. That's a good place to start from, obviously. Federal government has no immediate plans to implement 5% fuel tax. That position is credited to Wale Edo, Minister of Finance, who doubles as the coordinating Minister of the Economy. The writer says surcharge inclusion in 2025 Tax Act, part of efforts to consolidate, harmonize existing laws. All of these headlines were brought to you from the Daily Monitor newspaper. Do well to read details for yourself as we turn it over now to the National Star newspaper.
On the National Star newspaper this morning, we have some major headlines, beginning from the big story, which says Nupeng suspends strike after Dangote truce. 2 writers to that story. DSS brokers peace after tense standoff. Workers to unionize within 2 weeks. Wow, these people must be very powerful. Federal government plans to implement 5% fuel tax. Tinubu reaffirms commitment to overhauling Nigeria's health sector. Court orders British Airways to pay 53 million naira to Nigerian passenger over loss of luggage. All right. And this one says unlawful land conversion. Ganduje Oyinlola Idiagbon orders to pay 5 million fine. 171 houses destroyed as torrential rain displaced 545 persons in Kaduna. And right now to another story looking like the big story. 2 PDP kicks as NAS shuts door on Natasha after 6 months suspension. A troop nabbed 11 terrorist logistics suppliers, rescued 9 kidnapped victims. Abuja Kaduna train derailment. Reps issues a 48 hours ultimatum to minister. The federal government summons 13 airlines over flight disruptions. Details on page 15. Nigeria's 2026 World Cup hope in tatters after South Africa stalemate. The pictures of Trosekong is right there. That's going to be the size of the headlines from the National Star this morning.
All right, everyone. A few more papers to look at for you, but let's take a quick break now. When we return, we'll look at 3 more papers, bring you headlines from there, and then we'll move on to our conversation. Do stay with us. Well, thank you everyone for staying with us here. Let's go wrap it up on the papers this morning as we now begin with the Standard Times. All right. Okay, let's go above the name mass first of all on the Standard Times for you. And right here it says CBN projects $1 billion diaspora reserve by 2026. Then what's more? Flight delays, cancellations, that's your kicker. NCAA summons 13 domestic airlines. And then we will bring it down further a little. Natasha, Senate bars lawmaker from resumption. PDP cries foul. Now fund, federal government disburses 2 billion naira to students across Northwest. And then there's something more here. Hijab-clad terrorists abduct 8 in Zamfara community. No immediate plan to implement 5% fuel tax. Federal government there reassuring Nigerians. Flood hits Zaria. Mother, child, others swept away. Again, that very pathetic story replicated across a number of national newspapers today. 14.8% of Nigerians are addicted to drugs, says United Nations. And then finally, unionization. NUPENG suspends strike as Dangote Union sign memorandum of understanding. Those are the headlines from the Standard Times Nigeria today. Let's go take a look at the Daily Courier, and Ramsey has those headlines for us.
All right, quickly let's look at the Daily Courier. The Daily Courier has this headline which says NNPC Limited counts global investors at Gasted 2025. The big story says Onisha killings spark outrage as Soludo Ocha Brigade come under fire. 3 riders to that story. Please confirm 1 death. Eyewitnesses insist 5 killed. APC candidates Ukuchukwu blames Soludo, demands actions. Rights group warned against excess of state-backed operatives. Now to another story on page 16. INEC NBS forged partnership to harness data for national planning and elections. PDP slams alleged plot to block Senator Akpoti Odoahan's resumption. Israel's deadly attack on Hamas in Qatar draws global condemnation. South Africa hold Nigeria to a 1-1 draw as Super Eagles World Cup hope dim. Federal government launches NIP hash to curb 3.5 trillion naira post-harvest losses, boost food security. And of course, those are the headlines from the Daily Courier this morning.
All right, let's bring you a few more headlines from the first daily. I just sent the name plate. It says strike suspended. Nupeng calls of action after deal with Dangote refinery. Serap Chuakbabio lift Natasha's unlawful suspension. Now, of course, we won't be surprised if Serap also threatens legal action in this regard, as has always been the case. World Cup dream fades. Eagles held 1-1 by South Africa. FG retreats. Tinubu government backs down as 5% fuel tax after public outcry. FG retreats. Tinubu government backs down on 5% fuel tax after public outcry. What more do we have here? Presidency fires back. Borrowing not reckless but necessary. That's according to the federal government. Peter Obi resumes public activities after medical break. NCAA crackdown. 13 airlines summoned over flight delays. Passenger complaints. Nepal in flames. Parliament torched as deadly protest force Prime Minister to resign. I'm going to circle back to that in a minute with Ramsey. 2027, more governors, lawmakers will join APC. That's the national chairman of the ruling All Progressives Congress. What that? All right, but this particular headline here that reads Nepal in flames, Parliament torched as deadly protest force Prime Minister to resign. You see, the story is all over the internet, Ramsey. They said it was something that started after the government banned about 26 social media platforms from being accessed by members of the public in Nepal. So Gen Zs, as they are often called, took to the streets to protest this move, and that's also now extended to calling attention, government attention, that is, to other issues, including corruption, poor governance or lack of it, and things like that. And today, the Nepal you knew a few days ago is not the same Nepal that we are discussing on the program this morning. And back at home, I mean, closer to us, here, we saw what happened also in Kenya when some tax reforms were introduced by the Ruto administration in that country. How the bulk of the same young people who had thrown their weights, in some cases put their lives behind him to ensuring he became the president, also did a 180 degree on him when it was apparent that the government was not in this regard serving the people. There are those who believe that there is a lesson that African countries and indeed developing nations must learn from things like this.
Yes, of course. That's to tell you how powerful the youths are, if they really know how powerful they are.
Right.
You know, it's one thing for you to be powerful and don't know you are powerful. It's all about knowledge and awareness and the tools you have within your disposal. Now, we're in a digital age.
Right.
You know, so whatever decisions, you are imperative there. All right? And where the law, the constitution really works, you should be checked. Your activities should be checked as a leader wherever you are, at every position. Now, let's begin from how youths in these other countries. You talked about Kenya, and of course, they push for the resignation of the prime minister too, because of, see, the youths can dig, if the youths want, they can dig out your errors.
Right.
Because we are in a social media era. There are so many footprints that you can trace on social media today, back to several years. Everything you've done. And that's why these are some of the things some people don't know. It's not everything. When people bring some of their private life on social media, I feel for them. Because in a twinkle of an eye, it has gone viral. And the other thing is that it has come to stay.
That's right.
Going there to take it back will be difficult. Because you are not the only one that have access to it at that particular time. The Prime Minister, maybe some of the things that the youth will be unveiling, will be revealing about himself, he would even be surprised. But then, the issue of social media, when we still have freedom of information and expression, even though we're talking about the issue of Twitter, the federal government, and so already the other day, and we said something very vital. These people have their rules, they have their regulations. If you go against their rules, they know what to do.
That's right.
But if you know you have a skeleton in your cupboard and you want to regulate the social media in your own way, when you are not the one in charge, okay, of these corporations, because most of these social media corporations talk about Twitter, for instance, there is little or nothing you can do. So what we should be doing in this 21st century, in 2025, is we should know the power of social media. We should also be careful what we say and do as leaders. Sometimes the people might just be looking at you, but if the youths see, I can still refer back to the EndSARS protests that happened in Nigeria. For me personally, if not until then, I never knew there are youths in Nigeria that have that level of guts.
Right.
You know, so the power of the youth should not be underestimated at any time.
Especially when it has to do with responding to bad governance.
To bad governance. Because if some of them can even stake their lives for it. You know, so that is how serious that situation is. So anything that has to do with the social media, regulating social media, we should also know that there are people who own this social media and they have their regulations. Okay, they have the company, the corporations have their rules and regulations that regulate whatever anybody do on social media. So it's not even for you to decide. If you want to, for any reason, ban social media in your country for any reason, then you should also know how you go about it and how to relate with these people. But what will you even say in a world where people use so many things, you know? Well, let's just know that the youths are the life wire of every nation, and for no reason should be taken for granted. They can be quiet for 1,000 years, just like the devil, but then the day they want to come out, it won't be so funny. I think that's exactly what we are seeing now. You remember when you talked about Kenya, I could remember because that's one election a lot of people followed in Africa because of the fashions and of course the families that want to remain there and all about the emergence of the president and how William Ruto, how he came, the support he had from youth and everyone. And when you get there and things are not going the right way, the youths, they can also come up and, you know, by the time tweets start going round and of course so many other things from the youths on social media, it won't speak too well of any administration. So the youths should not just be pushed aside just like that.
All right, great. Well, that's what we're leaving it with the papers, by the way, everyone. Do remember that all of the headlines we bring to you here on the program, they are just exactly as published by their respective publishers. Global Television or the team here on Global Morning does not in any way contribute to these headlines or their details. Do well to read details for yourself and stay ahead of the news. When we return from this break, we'll talk more about national issues. Please don't go away. Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest. And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
All right, let's turn to Rivers State now. Well, not literally, but let's talk about issues coming up from that state. We understand that we're just a matter of days now before suspended Governor Siminalayi Fubara returns to office. I mean, it just reminds us of how time flies. That pronouncement by the president bringing in, declaring, first of all, state of emergency and bringing in a sole administrator was made on the 17th of March. This is virtually 6 months down the line. As a matter of fact, we are told that the suspended governor, all else equal, the path has been cleared for him to resume work on the 18th of this month, which is just 8 days away. But then there are concerns around what happens to the 6 months that Ibas, the sole administrator, would have spent in office by that time. Has he been accountable? Has he made any difference in terms of the governance of Rivers State? What impact has he made? What legacy will he be leaving behind? There are those now saying that he has to account. People on the ground in Rivers State, most of them stakeholders in the politics of that state, saying that he needs to account for whatever he has spent. But speaking of accountability, the man has said that on account of certain actions that his leadership, I don't want to say government, has taken the last few months, they've been able to save some 5 billion, for example, for the states. And we also understand that he has been driving some infrastructure development across the states as well. But there's a political angle to the conversation. People saying that, look, this state of emergency that was declared in Rivers about 6 months ago will play to the disadvantage of President Bola Tinubu and indeed the APC government in 2027.
Well, that's what people are saying, but then that's their opinion. Right. The game players know what they are doing, but then...
And President Tinubu, by the way, just to add to that, speaking of being a game player, has been referred to as the chief chess master.
As it is, but whatever happens in Rivers State, at the end of the day, provided Wike is still there, and for Wike to come out to say, well, this governor is going to be reinstated this date and all of that, and it's really going to happen. We are still waiting.
That was authoritative.
That's authoritative. What still happen? We are still waiting. Remember Natasha, 6 months suspension. Talking about Fubara, 6 months suspension, state of emergency. For Natasha, her own time now, we're hearing that the Senate is not allowing her in. Now, for Fubara, we've heard that from the minister, and some Nigerians are saying, on the 18th, he's going to be reinstated into office. And of course, the administrator has proven himself to an extent. At least he conducted election, even though some legal practitioners are saying, well, it's not within the confine of the law because it's not elected. It's not an elected office as it's been stipulated in the law. But elections have been conducted. Then, of course, he said he has saved 5 billion naira within these 6 months from staff verification. And that is huge. Okay, we're talking about billion here, not million. Where have that money been? Where has that money been going to? Don't you think some people from Rivers State indigents would want to say, okay, well, this man has done well. After now, is he going to be given another appointment in Rivers State, talking about IBAS, or is still going to go back? You know, he's a retired officer, but not tired, and that's why he came in as the administrator, and to an extent he has performed. It's not easy to come quench a burning fire, you know, very hot water, then you manage it until it gets cold. Even though there are, whether you like it or not, there are some persons who are Fubara loyalists that may not have supported his administration these 6 months. And of course, there are some persons that may have supported him throughout. Remember what happened from the State House, right there in Rivers State, the issue of the lawmakers and all the saga, but everything quells down, the situation calms down, and today he's moving gradually to the 6 months, and of course he has saved money for the state. He has also conducted election, and after that election, even though some persons were saying what happened, I hosted some persons on my program who said, well, that wasn't an election, that it was more like a movie, you know, a Nollywood movie, that how on earth do you think APC will win 20 councils out of 22 councils? And a lot of people were saying so many things, but what has happened has happened. People have assumed office and all of that. So we'll just keep our fingers crossed and see what will happen from Rivers State. Even if he's been restated as the governor of Rivers State, where is it going to start from? Would there be a continuity?
He has been disconnected,
so
to speak, for 6 months.
That's what it is. This is somebody who came into office with his plan. Because every politician will tell you they have their manifesto, they have their agendas, they have their programs, they have their plans, they have their vision where they want to be in the next 6 months. That's for 6 months is gone. You know, talking about the next 1 year, some of them celebrate their 1 year anniversary, 2 years anniversary, and all of that, and the scorecard is being looked at. But for Fubara, it's going to be a different ball game altogether, because he never had all this time. Is he going to start afresh, start the formation all over again? What about the people he had in mind to work with, to push his agenda? Are they still in the system? So these are some of the things we need to put in place. It means reinstating Fubara now means Rivers State is going to start from a new page altogether again. What impact is all of this going to have on the people of Rivers State, on governance and all of that? So these are some of the implications of some actions, but then some are being necessitated by circumstances which cannot be helped at some point in time. So let's just see what happens on the 18th. Well, what is happening at the National Assembly repeat itself in Rivers State, or Fubara has paid his dues?
Well, I love how Ramsey just ends it like that. We'll leave the rest for the man to speak for himself. 18th is 8 days away, like we said, and the clock is ticking. Let's take a quick break. When we return, our guests will be here to talk about the new demand, the latest of the demands of the organized labor led by the Nigeria Labour Congress, now saying that in light of the economic reality that Nigerians, especially workers, are grappling with, the federal government needs not only to review minimum wage upward, but that process should be as urgent as yesterday, in a manner of speaking. We'll take a break, we'll return. That's right in front of us. Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest. The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest. And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
The discussion is now taking place in full-fledged as we look at the economic reality of what is happening in Nigeria right now. We could remember there was a push for an increment in Nigerian workers' minimum wage, which took a very long time. A lot of negotiations happened, a lot of strike actions for the agreement, first of all, agreement to increase this minimum wage. Then at the round table, after several meetings, the agreement was reached and it was pegged at a particular amount. Even though the Labour insisted for a higher amount, but the federal government pegged it at 70,000 naira. After the agreement, implementation became an issue. And in Nigeria here, you know how it happens. You need to start a different push again, a threat for strike actions, in fact, calling on civil society organizations to intervene. And so many things happened. Then it was implemented at some quarters. As we speak, I'm not very sure if the minimum wage was 100% implemented across board in all states in Nigeria. Now, looking at the economic reality, Labour is now saying we need a renegotiation. Why? Because it is obvious that 70,000 naira cannot meet the demands. I'm not just talking about the full demands of workers, Nigerian workers, but that this money cannot even get them a bag of rice. All of us know how much a bag of rice is. Not to talk about transporting back to the office to work every day, meeting other very, very important needs, as the case may be. Today, we want to look at the economic reality and, of course, what Labour is saying, that is the demand for renegotiation of minimum wage. And joining me on the conversation is an information expert and a public affairs analyst in the person of Ogunloye Benedict. Ogunloye Benedict Olaleko. It's good to have you join us on the program.
It's my pleasure.
It's good to have you join us on the conversation this morning. Let's quickly look at the issue of renegotiation. How did it sound to you when you heard about that? Because some states have not fully implemented the minimum wage, the 70,000 naira, but the economic reality is speaking volume. And now there is a push, a thought for renegotiation. How did you feel hearing about that? Are you thinking that Labour is on track?
Well, when you talk about the minimum wage or wages generally in an environment and in a society, a lot of things are involved. When you say living wage, you're talking about meal, you're talking about housing, you're talking about transport. Of course, you're talking about home maintenance, you're talking about paying children fees. Now, should this actually, now at the moment, these 5 items have spiraled out of control. That's the first thing we need to know. So if you cannot control any of the 5, then you want to earn more money to be able to meet up. So I would want to look at a situation where labor can get more organized, put on a better thinking cap. Yes, you can push employer to pay more, but the practical reality also for the employer is they will not take money from space to pay. Now, apart from the government, maybe there's multifaceted sources of income, which of course should be targeted at reinvestment and making life better for everybody, in my opinion. For the private sector, you can only spend what you earn. So if the organization is not earning more and you are increasing salary, it will eventually result in owing the workers backlog of unpaid salaries. Why? Because your revenue did not meet up with the salary expectations. And so it means further dissatisfaction. Yes, it becomes a debt, but a lot of companies are also out there who have refused to clear the backlog of debt owed their staff. And in some cases, you can't even, you take them to court. Where do you get the money to do that? It amounts to some waste of time. So a lot of people are about to resign from jobs because the employer couldn't pay the salary, right, as agreed. So increasing it is pointless because even the low minimum wage that used to be there, they were not able to afford it. So what template should we therefore be running? We've had labor transport in the past, and it was doing well in Lagos and Abuja. At least 97, 98, 99, 2000. One of the easy means by which you move around in Lagos, especially on the Ikorodu Road, on Agege Motor Road, is to target the labor transport the NLC buses. And they were way cheaper. So why is it that today NLC or any of the labor union cannot go back to that era? Acquire the CNG buses, lower the transport for staff, or even make it possible for people to plan their transportation. Ask students across Europe, you can buy a ticket in September that covers you from September to July. Whatever price adjustment that happens within those 9 months, as a student who already has a full session ticket, you are not affected in any way. You are insulated from the shocks that the market will give. But the reality is that, so already you have your transport plan. You know that, okay, within zone is, and where your principal activities lie, you have it under control. So if I'm in this city, for the next 9 months, I don't have to think about paying for transport. I just need to get my card, go to the bus stop, wait for the bus, get to where I'm going. Now, that is guaranteed. And that's why in that environment, somebody could say, oh, this is what you need as your living expenses per month. Why? Because housing, the price range is under control. In Nigeria, the price of houses is out of reach. Sometimes they are even asking you to pay for 2 years. You're paying 1 year in advance. Elsewhere in the world, people pay rent. Even in some part of Africa, people pay rent monthly in arrears. Not even monthly in advance. But in Nigeria, we are paying yearly in advance. So we need to look at planning the accommodation and making it more responsive and making it better. In the name of you must own your houses, some people are now living 3-4 hours away from their place of work. And so they call me late and tired. Now, somebody has jokingly said that if you drive for 90 minutes to get to work, in the first 30 minutes of arrival, you are actually not coordinated enough to do creative thinking. But some are driving 3 hours. So it means that principally, rather than looking at the amount being placed on the table in terms of 70 or 100 or 200,000, let us look at what are the things that have been done. Where are our public schools? How well organized are they? What is their capacity to take students? How much are they paying? Can we make education free, particularly in primary and secondary school? At least in the public school, make it free, make it available, make it rational, so that everybody can confidently put their children in those schools. So if that happens, that takes away the burden of paying huge tuition in primary and secondary school away from the working population. So if you can defray the cost of children education, you can control the rent that they have to pay. You can plan the transport, make it more effective, make it more efficient, and make it better. You can run the health system so that those who want insurance can be on insurance. As much as possible, everybody should be able to be on some form of health insurance, so that you don't have to bring money from your pocket to pay for medical every time it is required. If these things are not taken off, then the minimum wage, no matter how much it is, would always be a poverty wage. So I think that what Labour should do more, as against grandstanding and pushing for an increased wage, is to say that, look, public schools should be more organized and should be made free. In FCT and in some other states, go to the public school, the land mass is huge. So why are we not using the capacity? Why are we not taking in more students? Why are we not putting the teachers there? Why are the laboratories not there? Such that everybody who wants to attend a public school should be able to attend for free. There are countries in Europe, oh, the public school is free, the private school are hugely and criminally expensive. But it's your choice. If you want your child in the public school is available. But in Nigeria, that is not the case. In several places, you don't have a choice but to eventually send the child to a private school, because the capacity in the public schools are limited. You got 72, I think about 72 federal universities today, but there are over 100 or 150 private. Right? And then what you discover is that everybody puts in for admission. You couldn't get the public school, the public federal, you couldn't even get the public state. So you have to resort to go to the private, not because it was ab initio your first choice, not because you think they are better, but because you could not find a space
but
in the
then,
public school.
Let's talk about the fact that this is Nigeria.
Yeah.
And of course, you know how it works in Nigeria to an extent, because I see you making comparison with some of the things that happened in Europe, which originally can be replicated here if the authorities really want it so. But the issue of minimum wage in Nigeria, you know, from what you've said, you have said, well, there is no need depending 100% on the minimum wage. Let's talk about the implementation of the minimum wage. The little that is even accrued to workers, they are not getting in an economy such as this. Why is it like that? Because as we speak, the implementation of even the 70,000 in some states is still a struggle.
Some states did not implement the 30,000 for the 5 years that it ran. They only paid 18, right? They only paid 18, even in the public sector. So now we are 70. But what we are saying in essence is that rather than focus on what you are giving to the staff, let's focus on what is the money meant to be doing. Now you are saying it's not about Europe. I did my primary and secondary school in Nigeria. And I remember that in my primary school, we were not paying. I've told you before, I had a major injury in the school in primary one, and I went to a primary health care close to the school. I got treated without them asking for my parent or my teacher or a registration card or anything. It was an emergency. I came, there was blood in the head. They treated me. And because I was a school child, they told me if they can bring me every morning by 7 o'clock, I will get the wound dressed and I will get my treatment done so that I don't go late to school. And that was done for a whole week without anybody paying 1 kobo. That was free primary health care in this country, not in another country. So if it had been done in the 70s and early 80s, it means that we still can do it.
So why are we not doing it? What's the problem?
And that's what I'm saying, that Labour and everybody concerned should be speaking at putting the health sector back in place, putting the free primary education back in place, putting the free secondary education back in place. Those should be our discussion. I've told you about Labour transport. There were the different state transport services in those days. In some of the state capital, you know that if you get to the bus stop, after 5 minutes, another bus will arrive. So you don't even have to rush.
I think I could remember NLC, Nigeria Labour Congress.
Labour Congress has their own Labour mass transit. Yes. Every state has their own mass transit. I think that started after the SAP riot. What has gone wrong? If today we have removed subsidy, why are we not back there? Why are the CNG buses not available to the state mass transit? Maybe Oyo has a few right now, but I see them doing more of interstate than doing within the state. So what we are saying is we should return back to the drawing board. Let's have a planned transport system. Let's have free education, or an education that is predictable in the public sector. Let's have an health system that can be planned for. Children and the aged should not, the senior citizens and the junior citizens should not be paying for health at all levels. So if you have planned that out, then the dependence on those who are the working class become less. But if you have not taken those bills off them, then you are piling up the bill. The minimum wage or whatever the salary is will never be enough. As long as you have to think about paying your rent 1 year in advance, it will always be an issue. Because I'm not sure any employer of labor wants to give you that much. And when you talk about increasing the wages, like I said, the capacity to pay is also an issue. Some states are owing salary, they are owing pension, they are owing this, they are owing that. Some private sectors are retrenching staff. Some private sectors are folding shops. Why? Because the earnings the revenue cannot sustain the salary expenditure. So before we talk about increasing wages, we should be looking at where are the increased sources of revenue coming from. Okay, what are the costs to these people, and how do we bring down the cost? And that's why for some of us we would always be talking about public. It can be a public-private partnership, but it should be run in a manner that is sensitive and is welfare-oriented. Most PPP we see today is commercial, and so those who are coming in are actually coming in to leverage on the inefficiencies of the government to reap the people off. A PPP should be for the purpose of, if it's welfare targeted, it should be for the welfare of the people first. Yes, we are not saying you should run at a loss, but when it's so profit oriented, the people are at a loss. We've got estates around town. some people raise capital to buy houses in some estates, and what they are paying today as service charges are possibly more than what they will pay if they have rented the same house elsewhere annually. I bet somebody for a property wouldn't have paid more than 1.6 million naira in the neighborhood. Within the estate is paying about 1.9 as service charge annually.
All right, let's get to the main fact right now, because if I could get you very well, you're trying to say, well, there are some areas that need to be tackled so that the weight doesn't rest on the salary, minimum wage, the salary. Now, whose responsibility? Do you think the labor, the NLC, the labor has the capacity to put those things in place? Because let's do an assessment of labor right now.
Yeah.
All right. Because we've had one come, one go, one come. The pedigree, some persons believe that, well, if you want to talk about labor, when they get to the negotiation table, so many things happen and they are not well represented. Some will tell you we are well represented and all of that. But everything you're saying now, do you think labor have what it takes to enforce these things you're saying?
It's not about enforcing. It is about, first of all, putting the plan in place. For instance, when you come to running some transport on some routes, at least across the major cities of the nation, I think that labor should be able to do that. And if they cannot do that, then it is sad. It shows you that we are in trouble, because they are the same people running the system in some organizations. Most times you see the senior staff run by people who come from Pengassan. I think Pengassan people have had more, that's in what do you call them now, CUT, is it? The NLC has been more of maybe people from other sector. Now the electricity people are possibly showing their strength. Textile, it used to be textile, now it's some electricity. But for the other group, for the senior group, it's been more of people from Pengassan. Pengassan run the oil sector. They run our oil business. So if they cannot run an association that could plan and do anything, then it tells you that there is a disaster at the middle to top to management level in the Nigerian system. If NLC also cannot run something as simple as transport system in the public, in the municipalities, it tells you also that something is wrong with the middle to down part of the labor force. Because what we are saying is, let's put it on the table. When they come to the negotiation table, they tell you this is the meal you get per family, is it not? This is what you need for transportation for a family of 5. This is the accommodation, and that's what we are saying. How do we defray the cost of this accommodation? How do we plan it appropriately? Government used to have houses and quarters. Due to what government will call some inefficiencies, they were sold off. But today we have new arrangements that were less efficient than what we have at the time. Now everything is out of control. So what I'm saying, NLC should come back. Okay, in housing, this is what we think should be happening. National Housing Fund is there. What are they doing? How are they collaborating with the different agencies, private and public? Where are the estates? Where are the buildings that are being funded, right, through that channel where everybody has contributed to for so long? If there are, it should be NLC championing and ensuring that if you call this a service housing scheme, it should be for people in service. If you call this a post-service housing scheme, it should be for people who are already out of service. Not that it's the same set of people who buy all the houses everywhere and became the mega landlord. When you say the health care, people in the health sector are also part of the labor union, whichever group you call them. So what is the union having a common agenda as labor? This is what we think the nation should be doing in the area of housing. This is what the nation should be doing in the area of transportation. This is what the nation should be doing in the area of education. Primary, secondary, tertiary. Those are the plans that should come on the table. If those plans are implemented, then you will realize that whatever minimum wage you now determine will be a living expenses to sort out a few things. But I tell you, even if the minimum wage become ₦1 million today, some medical condition will freeze it out in a day. There are drugs today that are as expensive as ₦1 million. There are drugs that are over 500,000, 600,000, and some people have them as routine drugs, and they are still at work. So how do you pay for a routine drug of 300,000 to 500,000 on a minimum wage of 70,000? But if the health system is well coordinated, there will be some form of insurance and some of help in place to ensure that you are not paying for that 100%. Of course, we know what insurance is. You pay 5, he pays 5, I pay 5, that one pay 5. In the end, maybe 10 of us will not need anything, but one person may need 30. He has paid only 5, right? But if 10 of us have paid 5, that is 50. So if only one person is spending 30, the insurance firm or the house where the money is kept is not running at a loss, because it's 30 out of 50. But if there is no insurance system or a network in place as such, yes, you don't need to spend, he doesn't need, but he needs, and then he can only afford 10, but he's asked to bring 30. He possibly will go on loan and then develop hypertension. And then he's at work, he's absent-minded. And then productivity is impaired. So a lot of the things that are wrong with us, go to some offices, the resumption time is 8 o'clock, but you don't see anybody there, even at 9. Before we used to think it's only in the private, in the public sector. Today you get to some private sector offices, and they are not open when they should be open. Because somebody who is supposed to open the door, who is supposed to do something, had been dragged behind traffic in Garauka, in Niger, or somewhere in Nasarawa, and everybody is just waiting. So to a large extent, beyond that money on the table, we need to defray the cost. And the focus should be more on transportation. This is where we are. This is where we should be. On housing, this is where we are. This is where we should be. And so negotiations should sit around. How do we move from where we are to where we ought to be? How many years will it take us? What are the incremental steps that are required? The money alone in itself will never be enough. There will be continuous inflation. And the moment people have more money, there will be less work, there will be more spending. And because lesser people are working and more people are trying to enjoy what they have, there would always be a new level of inflation. So, to a large extent, it is good to talk about salary increase. It is good to talk about wages increase. But beyond that, we need to look at where does this money go? And so those 5 priority areas that labor will put on the table to negotiate, we need to look at them. We're not talking about Europe. In Africa, there is a nation where people could get some level of bread for free on the street. Where they have water dispensers. You are just driving by, you see a water dispenser and you can park and go there and get water. Because it doesn't rain. And so the nation realized that, hey, water is a big issue. In Africa, not in Europe, on their street, you will see water dispenser. At some point in their community, there are places, maybe they are pro-poor, whatever you call it, but people will get bread for free to an extent. So it tells you that planning is required. Focus is required, and there should be a roadmap. We are the people. Put the process in place. Where we need to match it up with technology, bring the right technology. But just a discussion, a surface value of this is what I can do with my money. No. If you can get the transport for free or at half the current price, you will need less money than you're doing.
Oh, all right. Let's quickly go on a break. After this break, we'll return and the conversation will continue looking at the economic situation and Labour's attempt to renegotiate the minimum wage. Global Morning returns after this break.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest. The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
yes, the conversation is still on. Very hot conversation we are having here because this has to do with the economic situation and, of course, the pedigree of labor. And, of course, information officer and, of course, information expert. And he is also a public affairs analyst in the person of Gunloye Olamilekan right here with us today. As it is, from everything you've said, what do you think is the role of the federal government here? Or you think the federal government have no role to play? Because from everything you have said so far, I think the federal government also can be seen in the picture from your explanation.
No, absolutely the government has a role to play. But who is the government? It's still the same workers. It is not the president that will sit in all the ministries and all the agencies. Even when boards are appointed, the boards will not sit aloof without working with the workers that are on ground. So it means that the workers are the one who owns the vision and the engine room of those different organizations. So if the NHF is not working today, can you sack all the staff at the same time? I doubt. All you want to do is to maybe change the top management. As long as that does not percolate down, as long as the people does not take ownership and responsibility for ensuring that the things that needed to be done are done, we'll still be where we are. We've removed subsidy, now it's running to 30 months. You need less than 6 months to import CNG buses, to import electric tricycles and the rest, or to even set up a manufacturing plant or an assembly center in Nigeria. If the North uses so much of tricycle, why are we not assembling somewhere here? Why are we not dealing with tricycles that possibly will even run on solar or that will run on electric? What are we doing with the lithium deposit in Nigeria? How well are we transforming them into batteries? Our Center for Excellence in Ife and Madam Fodio University and every other place, what are they doing with the solar panel research? Where are we? It is not the president that will sit down and do these things by himself. But there were people being paid from the federal government purse who were at these different research centers, who were at the different universities, who were at the different ministries. The government has a role to play, but the government is still the people. Yes, at the policy level and some trust, but if the people have a resolve and a resolution and they are doing what should be done, all you need is little direction from the top and you get to where we are going. But no matter how focused the man at the head is, I keep telling people you have what do you call it, a team of 1,000 sheep led by one lion. The truth is your opponent can fear you because of the lion, but over time when they realize that everybody behind the lion are sheep, they will get a decoy for the lion and feast on the sheep and go away. That's the practical reality. The monkeys can jump from trees to trees and demonstrate and do all that he likes. But in my little experience of hunting, one of the things you do in those days is you have an idea of the forest and the area. So you know the parts where there are no trees. And so what you want to do is to cut the monkeys off from running to the part where there is tree, and then allow them to where they will get on the ground. And at that point, they will know that the dog is the king over monkeys on the ground. But if the people were not there to do the direction, the dog will not climb the trees. And so the monkeys are going to continue to demonstrate and act as if they are the next thing after God. So that's the practical reality. The government has institution, the government has establishment. People must be ready to take responsibilities. I used to work as a service person in those days. We were working, maintaining photocopying machines. Why work for Xerox? You get to some office, they have a machine room, there are 4 or 5 machines there that has not worked for a whole year. And the guys who are operators in that room do not bloody care. But they earn salary as operators. But those machines have not produced a single print in 1 year because somebody keeps sabotaging it. Or somebody keep making money selling the toner. Today the toner is missing, that one is missing. But they are earning salary. And they have turned the place to canteen, selling puff-puff and whatever. Some even in ministries that you think are key and important to the government. It's time to run the budget and they are looking for, those are supposed to be sensitive equipment, they are looking for business centers around town to outsource the job to. And the same people who make sure that their own machine did not work are also outside supervising that and collecting allowance for overtime. When indeed their own machine could do better, but they have made sure it doesn't work. So it behoves on NLC, and that's why when you talk about refinery and NLC, you say the NUPENG member, the Pengassan member are in the oil sector. They are part of the big umbrella of NLC. What exactly are they doing with their members who are in those sectors? What information are they extracting from their members? So you don't come to the open and grandstand. You say, our members say this is why this cannot work. And this is what we think government should do to make it work. Not make general statement in the public space about refineries. No. Labor should be able to make specific statement because there are unions in that sector that are affiliate of the labor union.
So all of this now, as we try to round up, does all of these justify the non-payment of minimum wage by some governors and some employers?
You see, when you come to, there is no justification for not paying if it has been agreed. Like we said, it becomes a debt. But the practical reality also is at the point of paying or not paying. Let's put the facts on the table. How much is the revenue that you are getting? How much is the wages that you are supposed to pay? What is the cost of generating that revenue? Add the cost of generating the revenue to the wages. Because that's what I mean is other costs apart from salary. When you add it to the salary and wages, if it outweighs the revenue, then you're running at a loss. And I think that it would be wrong, except you are starting off a fresh business and you are giving yourself moratorium. You shouldn't be taking salary and loan to pay salary in a running institution. So you got to sit down and possibly downsize, right size, or adjust the pay. If the pay cannot be adjusted in a way that you can cope with paying, then you need to downsize. It only means that the number of people that you have are not able to deliver the business that will keep them on the job. So there has to be what you call entrepreneurial creativity even among the workers to ensure that, look, we are bringing to the table what is enough to share by all stakeholders. But when you are not bringing enough, then perhaps we will eat the table, and sometimes the table itself will no longer be available.
All right. Thank you very much. Our time is not on our side. We'll have an extensive discussion on the economic situation and NLC saying there is need for renegotiating the minimum wage. Many thanks to our guest today in the person of Agunoye Benedict Olalekan for joining us.
Thank you very much.
He is, of course, an information expert and a public affairs analyst. We hope to have you some other time again.
No problem.
Let's go on a quick break. After this break, we'll bring Global Morning to a close. Stay with us.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
What is your problem? What's your problem? We're on the road to protest. President meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Quite frankly, we can never belabor issues that have to do with the labor, if you know what I mean. But this request, or if you like, this demand by the organized labor is one that probably should not be swept under the carpet, Ramsey.
Well, no matter what they do, labor is still labor. Like we've actually discussed today on Global Morning.
Right.
I think there are more to the minimum wage than just the money that is being paid. So many other things that need to be handled. Because even if you're paying a minimum wage of 200,000 in Nigeria as it is right now, looking at the economic reality, how far will it be able to go?
Well, I think that question will require an answer in the days, weeks, and months ahead. But that's what we're leaving the program today. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Remember that the views of all of our guests are their opinions. I'm Uyi Agbomofwegbe.
I am Ramsey Enoch Agbo. Many thanks for joining us today.